Gin Does Games.
Hello everyone, Gindokish here with another episode of Let's Learn to Play League of Legends. Today we're going to learn what matters most to anyone and everyone playing the game. How to win a game on Summoner's Rift. A good chunk of this applies to Twisted Treeline as well, but, well, no one plays Twisted Treeline, right? Hello? Is anyone here? Oh god! Oh no! Why? Bleh! When it comes to winning on Summoner's Rift, you basically have two options. A. Be Charlie Sheen. If you're not Charlie Sheen, then you are left with option B. Destroy the enemy nexus. That's right. This thing. This thing right here. Blow it up. That's how you win. Easy, right? Wrong. In order to deal damage to the nexus, you must first destroy the two towers protecting it. To hurt those, you must destroy at least one inhibitor. And in order to destroy the inhibitor, you must first destroy all towers in the lane that stand before it. A bit long-winded, but that's all. Notice, in all that, I didn't mention the enemy team once. The point is that killing the enemy is not the goal of the game. In order to win, you don't need more kills than the enemy team. You don't need to have the best personal kill-death ratio. You don't need the best team comp in the world. You don't need the best jungler. And you don't need the tankiest tank that ever tanked a tank. All those things are useful, and they will help, but they aren't necessary. Theoretically, an entire game could go by without a single death. The only thing you have to do is blow them buildings to itty-bitty bits before the other guys do. The enemy team, then, is simply an obstacle, the only real threat that stands between you and the Nexus. Minions and turrets exist, of course, but both can be dealt with by anyone, given competency and enough time. Therefore, the nullification, if not the destruction of the threat that is the enemy team, is generally necessary to win. The threat is nullified when the enemy is not around to threaten, or is too weak to further pose said threat. There's plenty we can do to try and achieve either of these states. So, first let's talk about your opponents not being around. It's a fairly simple concept. If no opponents are near enough to stop you from pushing a turret, obviously you should, in most cases, push the turret. The sooner you destroy it, the sooner you can win after all. But how do you know? If the opponent is in that bush right behind you, you'll probably just get yourself killed. Therefore, it's always important to know where the enemy is. Or, when that's not an option, know where the enemy is not. The minimap is your best friend in this endeavor. Just start counting enemy icons. If at any point you don't count 5 enemies on the map, and you can't account for the others, such as if they just died, or you know for a fact that they're on the other side of the map, it's probably not a good idea to go blast that tower. This is where wards come in. I could fill a whole video on warding, and I probably will later, so I'm just going to go over the basics here. Wards give you vision. If you can place a ward such that you can see whenever an enemy comes within a threatening range, you don't have to worry so much about where they are. So long as you know that they are not in the one place that they can attack you from, then you're safe. But as soon as you see them heading towards you, you should definitely back up. Knowledge is power. And while we're talking about wards, we should also mention the item Wriggle's Lantern, which gives you free wards, and the summoner spell Clairvoyance, which gives you vision for a short time. Everything you can do to know the enemy's position will help you out, not only in knowing if it's safe to push, but in planning strategy and pouncing on secondary points like the Dragon and Baron Nashor. Next is the much larger topic of outclassing your opponents. Much of this will come with practice, knowing your matchups, knowing what items to build and when, knowing how to land your skill shots, and so on. Some of these you can't even affect, like what champions your opponents pick. Instead, we'll focus on the two things in any game that you can learn to maximize over your opponents, regardless of skill level: gold and XP. Gold and XP both boost your overall effectiveness in the game, but do so in different fashions. XP will get you levels, which will boost most, if not all, of your stats slightly, as well as giving you access to more or better abilities. XP has a hard cap at level 18, meaning that any advantages in level must be gained early and must be leveraged early. Given enough time, regardless of comparable skill, both teams will reach level 18, so at that point your advantage will be lost. Gold, on the other hand, will buy you items. Items give a much higher boost than gaining levels, but only in specific areas. For example, the basic longsword will give Tryndamere about 3 levels worth of attack damage, but will not give boosts to other things levels give, such as health and armor. Gold has a soft cap whenever you fill up your 6 item slots, plus consuming all the available elixirs. However, items can be sold and replaced, meaning more gold will always grant you the flexibility to change your strategy. Given their differences, we can deduce that an advantage in levels is most useful in the early stages of the game, especially as it gives you more health and more options in your abilities. A gold advantage, when well spent, is useful throughout the game, but is much more likely to grow over time. Furthermore, gold is much easier to manipulate as an advantage, as even the weakest enemy can gain XP by standing near dying minions. So, considering all that, let's talk gold. Your goal is to get as much gold as possible, not just for yourself, but for your entire team. Even if you think the rest of your team is bad and should uninstall the game, more money for them will improve their performance at least a little. There are 4 major sources of gold on the map: turrets, the dragon, champions, and minions. The turrets are your highest priority. Not only does destroying one give each member of your team 150 gold, for a total of 750, but it furthers your goal of destroying the enemy nexus, as well as shrinking your opponent's zone of control. Next is the dragon. The dragon spawns 2.5 minutes into the game and respawns every 6 minutes after it dies. Killing the scaly beast nets your team 190 gold each, plus an additional 25 gold for its killer, for a grand total of 975 gold. Controlling the dragon as a team is very important for gaining a gold advantage, especially at higher levels of play. A consistent gain of almost 1,000 gold over the enemy team every few minutes is nothing to scoff at. Killing enemy champions is the other main source of getting big chunks of gold all at once, but is also the riskiest. The biggest issue with getting kills is simply the possibility of giving them to the enemy instead. Furthermore, if your opponent kills you at the same time that you kill them, you've essentially wasted your time. Nevertheless, the benefits often outweigh the risks. Not only does a kill net you gold, it gives you the time where your opponent is not protecting their lane, gaining experience, or gaining gold. The base value of killing a champion is 300 gold. That will go up or down depending on how many kills they have, how many deaths they have, and what level you are compared to them. A bonus 100 gold is awarded for first blood. While that may seem small, every little bit counts. An important point that many people forget about, though, is assists. If anyone gets an assist, that is, deals damage to, debuffs the enemy, or buffs the ally who killed them at most 10 seconds prior to their death, then about 60%, 58.33% exactly, of the gold gained by the killer is divided evenly among everyone who assisted. That's 60% more gold on your team, about 180 more based just on the basic kill. With that much gold available, you should always try to get at least one person assisting on every single kill. Finally, for gold, let's talk about minions. Minions are the most abundant and the safest source of gold and XP in the game, though they give both only in small doses. You gain XP just by standing near minions when they die, but you have to get the last hit on a minion to get gold from it. Practice getting last hits. This is one of the most important skills you can learn for getting an advantage over the enemy. Every 30 seconds, a wave of minions will spawn at each base. Every 3 waves, a siege minion will spawn, which changes to every 2 waves after 35 minutes. The first wave, if you manage to get every last hit, nets you about 104 gold, and every few minutes that number will increase by 1 gold per minion. Just quickly running the numbers in your head, you'll find that 3 waves is about equal to a champion kill. So what this means for you trying to win is that though trying to kill your enemy in lane is highly beneficial for more gold, XP, and lane dominance, it is safer and often equally lucrative to sit back and farm minions. It might be a bit boring by comparison, but again, try learning to last hit. You'll end up with more money in the long run, and with time and practice, you'll learn when it's a good time to go smash faces instead. There are several methods to maximize your gold and XP gain as a team, most of which revolve around having a jungler. A jungler is a member of your team who does not stay in a lane during the early game. They instead wander between the lanes, killing the neutral minions, helping out when a lane is in trouble, and ganking whenever possible. In this way, at least in the early game, the jungler can keep up with the rest of the team on gold and XP. Meanwhile, that frees up another lane to only have one person in it. A solo lane gets all of the XP to themselves, rather than sharing with a lane mate. Plus, they're free to get the last hit on every minion, thereby maximizing gold. The current popular style when a jungler is present on the team is to have an AP caster of some kind alone in the middle, a beefy character in the top lane who can sustain themselves alone for a long time, and 2 more characters down in the bottom. But even here the pros try to maximize gold. Rather than have both players farm the minion, only one does so, while the other, usually playing a support character or a tank, will only assist but never take the last hit, instead relying on items that passively give extra gold to get what they need. Jungling is a huge and complicated topic all its own, so let's file it under future episodes. For now, I'll leave a few links in the description to some jungling videos by other people. And before you all start commenting, "But again, I saw the World Championships. They swapped lanes all the time." Yeah, they did. And that's great. But before you head off to go wherever you want because you saw the pros do it, you need to learn why the basic meta is the way it is. This too is another video for another day. Making quite a list for myself here, aren't I? Finally, and I mean it this time, there are 3 different neutral buffs scattered around the map, each held by a neutral monster. They are all very useful, and controlling them, much like controlling the dragon, will help lead you to victory. First is the Crest of the Ancient Golem, the blue buff. Each team has one in their jungle, though you can take either for yourself. The blue buff gives the owner a boost to mana or energy regeneration, and a massive cooldown reduction bonus that lasts for 2.5 minutes. It is held by the Ancient Golem, who spawns at 1 minute and 55 seconds and respawns every 5 minutes after its camp dies. It's usually extremely useful on mages, whose abilities deal most of their damage, yet often have mana problems in the early game. If the buff's owner dies, it's transferred to whoever killed them and is refreshed. Next is the Blessing of the Lizard Elder, or the red buff. The buff holder's basic attacks slow the target and deal additional true damage, both scaling based on level. It lasts as long as the blue buff, transfers to killers the same way, and its original owner, the Lizard Elder, has the same spawn times. This buff is especially useful on high attack speed physical champions, or anyone attempting a surprise attack on a lane, like a jungler. Lastly is Baron Nashor. Baron Nashor is the most powerful monster on the map, and you probably won't fight him in every game, but if your team really needs the boost, or you're way ahead and you want to get more ahead, take him down. He usually takes most of your team to fight effectively, so make sure the enemy team doesn't catch you there. He spawns 15 minutes into the game and respawns every 7 minutes after he dies. If you manage to take the beast down, he grants every living member of your team, regardless of where they are, Exalted with Baron Nashor. The Baron buff grants you 40 ability power, 40 attack damage, 3% of your max health and health regen per 5 seconds, and 1% of your max mana in mana regen per 5 seconds, all of which lasts for 4 minutes or until you die. The Baron buff, fortunately for you if you lose it, is non-transferable. And that's the basics of what you need to know to win a game of League of Legends. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Please hit the like button if you did, and subscribe for future episodes. Let me know in the comments what I should talk about next. Now get out there and blow up some Nexuses! Nexus... Nexi...